Severe storms, heavy rainfall, and high heat are all on the docket for the next few days. My name's Dylan. Welcome to the forecast with Dylan, and we're going to map it all out for you. Let's start off with the day's risk of severe weather. There is an enhanced risk of severe weather over parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and a little bit of Arkansas. This is driven by a 45% SIG 1 risk for wind, a 5% SIG 1 risk of tornadoes, and a 30% SIG 1 risk for hail. If we take a look at the models, let's take a look at the 12ZH-RRR. Let's take a look at the composite reflectivity. This is the simulated radar, basically. You'll start to see these cells pop up around 4 p.m. Here, these little guys shouldn't be doing too much. So as you continue this on throughout the evening, you'll see these guys, they'll pack a punch with some wind and some hail as we go on throughout the night. But you'll start to see these little beans pop up at about 7, 8 p.m. This is where our main risk is going to come in, okay? Because these are discrete cells. So these are going to roll on through the risk zone about for a few hours, really. I think at about 12, you'll start to see a line form, and by then it'll be nothing but some wind moving on through the risk zone. By tomorrow morning, the only thing left of these storms are some rain down here in Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, and Tennessee. So it'll fade out pretty quick. Take a look at our thunderstorm fuel here. We can see values between 4,000 and 5,000 throughout our risk zones. This is going to be more than enough for thunderstorm development and definitely enough for severe thunderstorm development. So this is going to be conductive for some wind and hail events throughout the risk zone. We can take a look at the significant tornado parameter throughout today's event. As you can see, it stays pretty low throughout the risk zone. None of these really exceed 1 or 2. As we go on to about 8 p.m., we'll start to see the development of some higher STP values. I don't see any above 4.5, 5, but that is all you need for a significant tornado or two. So we'll be watching this heavily. There's not a really large threat for tornadoes today, but any supercells that can't get their act together may pose a risk for a significant tornado. Well, turn your attention over to tomorrow for a moment as well. There is a slight risk extending through a lot of the East Coast. It even includes me down here. This is driven by mainly a 30% wind risk, and for most of it, it's 15%. And a little baby 5% hail risk up here. We can look again at the simulated radar. As you can see, throughout tomorrow, there will be some discrete cells down here toward the south. I shouldn't call them discrete cells because they're not going to really behave like the type of discrete cells I usually talk about. These guys will just be wind inhalers. But there's going to be a line that will move in, and this will cause the big bulk of our hail threat here. As you can see, this will kind of push on. It'll be, I would maybe call it semi-discrete in the later hours, but this will produce a wind threat for our friends up here in Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, up further up north as well. If you look down toward the southern side of this risk, some semi-discrete thunderstorms will move down here through North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia. These will pose a wind risk. If you thought I was done talking about severe weather, I'm not. We have a 15% slight risk of severe weather throughout a part of Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and some of Ohio on Wednesday. Now, the long-range models really can't agree on what's going to happen here, but the setup looks interesting. And if you take a look at what the radar might look like, you can see these thunderstorms pushing on through Wednesday evening and night, and eventually they'll form a little rain line here moving into Kentucky, Tennessee, and such, and eventually they'll break up before they can get too further south. The setup does look interesting, and it's something to look out for. There's also a 15% slight risk on Thursday for portions of Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, and West Virginia. Now, this setup, we can't see a lot about it this far out, but it doesn't look as interesting. This will possibly just be a wind inhaler for our northeastern states. We're going to be watching out for it. Show our good friend the Weather Prediction Center some love. Not everybody talks about them, but there is a moderate risk for heavy rainfall in effect throughout parts of Missouri, northern Arkansas, and northeastern Oklahoma. Let me show you what this is all about. Let's take a look at the precipitation accumulation on the latest long-range HRRR. Now, the kind of later runs in the past few hours of this model have kind of toned this down, but I want to turn your attention here To the east of Joplin, over Springfield, Missouri, and such, these areas 10 inches. Now, this is like really high end of what could happen. As I said, the guidance kind of smooths it out to higher sevens, maybe 8 inches of rain for these folks. But if this prediction pans out, the 12, 13, 14 inches, we could have heavy flash flooding in this area in here. So if you're near Springfield, Missouri, east of Joplin, to the south of Kansas City and St. Louis, you need to be getting ready for possible flash flooding today because it could happen. I just realized I was showing you the latest hour of that model. I'm going to tone it back to Sunday, tomorrow morning at 6 in the morning, and we can see that it's basically still the same thing. A majority of this rainfall looks to happen between 8 and 6, so it's all going to be really overnight rainfall. An overnight flash flooding, depending on how you look at it, could be better and it could be worse. I don't know. But any flash flooding is bad. We don't want flash flooding in these areas, so you need to be ready for it. Our tropical disturbance down here, I talked about this in my last forecast video. The National Hurricane Center has now given it a 20% chance of development throughout the next 7 days. Now, could this turn into a tropical depression and maybe cause some heavy rain for these folks down here at the Texas-Mexico border? Yes. Will it turn into a major hurricane and impact the United States? Probably not, but it's still something the National Hurricane Center is looking for. Take a look at the satellite, you can see the system start to develop. It's nothing more than some clouds off in the Gulf of America right now, but still, the National Hurricane Center is looking out for it, and it may cause some heavy rain to these folks here on the Texas-Mexico border. Our good friends, the high temperatures, have made their return back to the southeast. We talked about this in my last forecast video, but I'll just go ahead and mention it again. Down here in the southeast, Georgia, the low country of South Carolina, these temperatures are between 95 and 100 degrees. Take a look at California, Arizona. These areas down here will be receiving 100 to 105 degree temperatures. And I mentioned this in the last forecast video, but this place ain't gonna get a lot of rain. We take a look at the GFS total precipitation accumulation for the same area where our temperatures are gonna be really high throughout the next few weeks. Nothing. Maybe a drop at best. So these folks are gonna not only be dealing with really high temperatures, but they're also gonna be dealing with zero to little rainfall, which is the story of these folks' life this time of year, unfortunately. But still, heavy drought conditions may be a factor, and wildfire risks will increase. I think that's all from me. We'll definitely have more forecast videos coming out before Wednesday, because I believe that setup could possibly do something. We'll have forecasts out before then, but until then, if you're in today's risk area, make sure to be weather aware, have a way to receive those weather alerts as those storms persist into the overnight hours, and make sure you know what timing to expect for your area so you cannot be scared, but be prepared. Thanks for watching the forecast with Dylan. My name's been Dylan, and have a great Saturday.